Have you ever found yourself thinking that the work we actually do as research administrators is not really in alignment with what the job descriptions say they are? For example, how many job descriptions have you seen that uses some variation of this sentence? Works with college and faculty to develop and submit competitive grant and contract proposals to federal, state, foundation, and industry sponsors. In the last week alone, I have seen about 13 job descriptions that include these words, and actually more if you include variations of these statements, which isn't really surprising because we kind of expect to see that as part of the job description because technically it's correct. That is basically what we do. But it's also the same as saying that a surgeon cuts people up for a living. Yes, it gets the point across, but it's not exactly what you're going to base your hiring and performance requirements on. It is an overly generalized and stratospherically high level of obfuscation of the actual requirements of the job itself. So what does it look like if we zoom in to the actual requirements of this one statement alone? What does it require of an employee? What skill sets are needed, and how can we elucidate on the true responsibilities of the job? I did an experiment where I basically took this one statement and broke it down into what specific items I thought rolled up into that one item. So here's what I came up with. That one item includes directs the operational planning and coordination of grant applications within the department or division and consortium institutions, effectively triaging priorities amid competing deadlines using advanced scheduling and resource allocation techniques. Synthesizes a comprehensive understanding of fiscal and institutional knowledge in collaboration with scientific leaders to develop compliant, realistic grant budgets that meet both sponsor and institutional requirements. Analyzes and integrates information from agency and federal guidelines as well as university policies to make well-informed decisions. Provides strategic guidance to faculty, staff, and administrators, ensuring adherence to regulations and optimization of outcomes. Provides training and mentorship to new investigators, and guiding them through the grant submission process, including understanding grant guidelines, navigating submission software, and ensuring compliance with sponsor requirements. Collaborate with investigators to create, refine, and format grant documents, offering solutions to challenges and troubleshooting technical issues to ensure a smooth submission process. Act as a trusted resource for investigators, fostering their confidence and competence in securing research funding while improving the overall guidance grant application experience. Now, in some organizations, training the PI on how to complete workspace documents or navigate the grant submission process may technically fall outside the RA's formal responsibilities. However, when it's time to actually submit a grant, the PI and the RA often end up working closely together, and operationally the submission cannot proceed without the RA either training the PI or stepping in to handle the process themselves to meet leadership expectations. So in practice, research administration on the ground often deviates significantly from institutional best practices, and this work is both invisible and time-consuming. Because this experiment in the exercise can be applied to every line in a research administrator's job description. Each line item can be broken down into numerous additional activities, which offers a more accurate depiction of the work that we actually perform. Now, some people could argue that job descriptions aren't meant to be that detailed, and including every specific task would make the job seem overwhelming, which it is. So instead, we condense these numerous activities into single line items for the sake of convenience and brevity. But in that activity, we also oversimplify our job, which can be costly because new RAs who have never done this job before often feel misled as the role that they applied for doesn't align with the work that they ultimately end up doing. So it leads to increased dissatisfaction, reduced confidence, higher turnover, which again results in significant cost to the institution for coverage, recruiting, and training as these people cycle in and out. Salaries are often much lower than they should be for the level of expertise that's required because the job is oversimplified in descriptions for the sake of brevity. And this makes it difficult to recruit top talent because experienced candidates, they recognize that mismatch between the work advertised and the salary being offered, and they're just not going to apply. Now, this oversimplification also creates a false perception of the workload that RAs handle compared to what they actually do. And a significant amount of invisible work goes unrecognized and unaccounted for in benchmarking surveys, which typically then will lead to a substantial undervaluation of the role, both in terms of time and value. Recently on the ResAdmin mailing list, one of the members conducted a workload analysis using Lacey Rhea's framework and was surprised to find that each of her employees was doing the work of 2 people, in some cases more. Now, this exercise has actually been replicated with similar results in organizations that vary in size and complexity, which means that for most organizations, even if they are fully staffed on paper, they're operationally understaffed. So for like every 10 employees, they need 20. And it's no wonder that our profession is suffering with such an endemic case of burnout if you think about that disparity. So as I was talking about earlier, I tried out this experiment where I took the job description online. So the portion that I shared with you so far is just that one sentence, but I actually did this for multiple portions of the job description. And I broke it down into its component parts because I was playing around with the idea of what would happen if we re-envisioned how we approach job descriptions and job titles. I was curious to know what impact would it have on the salary grading as applied to the position if we actually put in all of the skills and expertise that are necessary. How would it affect the infrastructure within research administration if RAs were considered strategists instead of administrators? So I played around with the title there a little bit. And how would it change the number of positions that would be needed to be fully staffed, especially if you take Lacey's framework into consideration? So putting both of those things together, like what does that look like? How would we see a change in the candidates that apply, or what about in turnover rates, right? The application and in turnover rates. I would be really, really curious to know if you or your organizations experimented with job descriptions in this way, using more accurate and detailed descriptions and titles, maybe compensating for these positions with higher and more appropriate wages. How has it impacted your organization, the relationships that your RAs have with the PIs? What benefits have you seen? What challenges have you faced? I would love to know. And in the meantime, if you want to try Lacey's framework in your own organization, you can check out the video. The link is going to be in the show notes. Please check it out. You will find it is a wealth of information.